y'all, welcome back to another video here on the From the Farmyard podcast. Today we are once again adding a new video to this series, which we are titling Our Farmyard Friends. If you know the deal and you've been here before, then this is a show where we bring on a few people we know or have met, people who we call mentors, but most importantly our friends, and we hope that you'll call them yours too. But enough for me, let's let our special guest introduce herself.
Hi, I am Jessica and Jessica Crazy Chicken Lady. I live in Iowa. Kind of mostly known for chickens and eggs, but my husband and I have a little bit of everything. We have cows and I have chickens and turkeys. There's a bunch of cats running around here. Do a little bit of everything. So
Awesome. So tell us a bit about your backstory, about how you got into, farming, or why you started it. What was like that first initial thing for you?
um so I did not really grow up in a farming family or a farming environment. My husband and I got married and he is a farmer, like a crop of corn and soybeans, and he and his brothers and his dad all farm together. He takes care of hog barns, and we had cows at that time in our pasture. And I wanted something. Of course, I wanted a horse, and he told me no. And then I said, well, how about chickens? They're small. And that's actually kind of a funny story of how I actually got my chickens. Was my neighbor brought me over chickens, and I had no clue of what I was doing at all. Absolutely no clue. Kind of just figured it out. And the funny part is, when my neighbor brought me these chickens, I thought they were laying hens, and he actually brought me broilers. And it took us a while to figure out that these chickens were not going to lay eggs. So the next year, then I got myself laying hens, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Start off with
It always
a
does.
dozen. Yes, yes. Chickens really are the gateway animals. You start off with a dozen chickens, and you like this breed, you want that breed, you want this color egg. You start off with the
Exactly.
brown, and pretty soon you have the white eggs and the green eggs, and it's just so much fun to
It
add
is.
that stuff.
It is.
And to keep learning new things too.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons I think we got into chickens was, I mean, obviously to have eggs in our backyard. I think we
Mm-hmm.
did meat birds first. I think we started with meat birds, and that was about 8 years
Okay.
ago. That was about 8 years ago, so we've been doing chickens for a bit now. But then we got into raising laying hens, and like I don't know what that noise is, but it keeps scaring the crap out of me. Sorry. So anyway, um, we I was the one who first really got into chickens. I mean, we had raised
Mm-hmm.
chickens and we started with them, and it was kind of like my mom and dad's project or whatever. They just got them to have eggs. And I was like, I am never liking chickens. I will never love this. And then I started having to take care of them. And after that, it's almost like when you have to take care of an animal and then you go out and you
Yes.
just keep doing it over and over again, it's like, man, I started like falling in love with these animals. Like chickens are
Yeah.
such amazing creatures because they're like,
Mhm.
people are like, oh, like chickens are dumb. No, bro, chickens are smart. Chickens are they're
Yes.
really intelligent. And for my flock, I mean, I think each of my birds has their own little personality, but I
They
spend a lot of
do.
time in the coop. That's just me.
Yes. And each breed has a different personality as well.
Exactly. They do, because
Yeah.
some are just a little bit nicer, while others are a lot less personal. So it's really
Yes.
dependent upon what breeds you get. How many chickens do you have like in total?
Um, I get that question a lot, and I usually say somewhere around 150 now.
Wow.
But I'm not 100% sure.
That's goals. I only have
So
24. That's goals.
I think I have like It's between 40 and 50, somewhere in
Okay.
there, of meat birds, mainly layers, and then yeah, a bunch of layers. And
Yeah.
I started off with 6, and then the next year
Okay.
added like 24 more and was like, yeah,
Yep.
I definitely have all the colors now, all the eggs that I could ever need.
And the neat thing is that when people find out that you have those farm fresh eggs, then they will tell somebody else and tell somebody
Hmm.
else. And it's really fun meeting people selling eggs, I think.
Hmm.
It's just
Yes.
kind of
Definitely.
a part of it.
Yeah. So, since you seem to know a lot about chickens, what kind would you recommend for like a beginner chicken keeper?
Um, so like I said, we're in Iowa and it's cold 5 months out of the year.
Right.
I would say really depends on your location. If you're in a colder area, research those birds
Hmm.
that are a little bit more hardy. Um, so I was gonna have the list of all the different breeds that I have. And especially it depends on if you have kids or not too.
Hmm.
Um, Americana are really good if you want the green eggs. Um, Leghorns, I really don't recommend. They are bred to pump out a lot of eggs,
Yeah.
but they're flighty and they don't have that long lifespan. They're not quite as friendly as
Right.
other
Right.
ones. Um, the um the Astrolorp. I got
Hmm.
Astrolorp last year and they lay a really nice brown egg. Those are the friendliest chickens that I have
They're
ever
very
had.
nice. They're very
Yes.
nice. I had them like jump up on my shoulder before, and they're super chill birds. They're very nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say, like,
Um,
out of all the breeds though, what would be your favorite? And that's really a hard question, but if you could have like
that
one
is,
favorite.
that is. I really like the Morans. I really like those dark chocolate eggs.
Hmm.
And there's different breeds of the Morans. Yeah, it's just neat having that variety of
Yeah,
color in the egg basket. So
definitely.
I will keep going back to the Morans. Maybe this year I want to get um the Barnfelder. I don't think I'm saying
Hmm.
that right.
We talked about this on the last one that we
we
filmed.
talked,
That's
we
actually really
did.
funny. So
So,
the way
okay.
that I pronounce it is the Biafilter. That's how I've
Okay.
said it. But the way the other person we interviewed, they said it the same way you did. So I don't
Okay.
know.
I
Guys, if
don't
you
know.
comment section, if you guys know, like spell
Yes.
it out for us.
Please correct me.
Give us the pronunciation. I want to say my chicken breed names right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. I have a few Wyandottes. I think, and hopefully I'm saying that one correctly.
That's how I pronounce it.
Um, the red lace blue
Oh,
Wyandottes,
those
a
are
couple
beautiful.
of the darker ones. There's the Rhode Island Reds. Um, yeah.
There's a lot of different breeds. I've
Yes.
experimented with a lot of different kinds, and I think that's what's a lot of fun with it. Is through your
Yes.
years, you're also growing in experience. So
Mm-hmm.
through the years of chicken keeping, I'll go to Tractor Supply and see like, okay, well now I need some new chickens. Well, what varieties do they have in stock now? So
Yes.
with
Yes.
that, it's like I
Yes.
take what they have, but with that, I'm also getting new types of chickens, to
Yes.
try. So I have my whole flock of 24. I think maybe two would be like the same breed. The rest are all completely different. And it's really fun with
Okay.
that. It's because you get to experience each breed and then know from that, like, okay, what breeds can I
Yes.
come back to? So, from my personal experience, I have a 7 or 8 year old, two of them still living from my original
Oh,
flock
wow.
of birds of black star sex links. And the
Okay.
one hen just stopped laying like last year.
Oh my
So,
gosh. That's
really
amazing.
impressive bird. Really impressive bird. But the
Yeah.
newer ones I got of the Black Star Sex Link, I've already had two die, and I feel like they're not laying as well as the ones before. So, I don't know. Hatcheries, are you doing something to my chickens now? I mean, just my thought process.
A couple years ago, it's maybe been more than a couple years, I went to the farm store and they had the Jersey Giants.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, those are supposed to be big, you know, way bigger than all the other chickens. And I got a dozen of the Jersey Giants. Thought I had Jersey Giant chickens for a couple years. Someone was getting rid of their chickens and gave me a hodgepodge of about a dozen chickens, two Jersey Giants. And I looked at my chickens and I was like, I never had Jersey Giants.
It's
And
so
I'm like,
weird
that
when that
farm store ripped
happens.
me off, you know?
Exactly. I want to
Yeah.
Yeah,
buy
so I don't
specific
know what kind of
breeds.
I don't know what kind of black chickens those were, but I did not have Jersey Giants. So they really
That's
are heads and shoulders taller than all the other ones, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. We had ours. I'm really close to the people at my Tractor Supply because we've been going in there for so long now. Like everybody, I know everybody, and a lot of the times they'll have people in there, or they'll be talking about me, and I walk in and they're like, "We were just talking about you. Can you help out this person?" Just because I know the breeds a lot better, and I'm like, "Well, you want this
Wow.
breed or this breed,"
Yes.
and I can help them a little bit better. But they don't get like a lot of information with the breeds at all. Like
Mhm.
sometimes they
Okay.
get cards that are labeled wrong, and they've had like some of them employees know by now, and they've had a whole bin of white leghorns, but they don't have a paper to go with that. And they were
Okay.
selling them as black copper Morans or something like that. And I was like,
Oh
that's not
no.
right. But they can't do
No.
anything about the papers and they can't print off more because they don't have access to that. And that's it's disappointing for some people, but it's also hatchery should do a better job at labeling.
Yes. Yes.
One time, the
Sometimes I think
funniest.
that sometimes I think those like the smaller farm stores, especially, they're not they're not as great as if you would order them directly from the hatchery.
Right.
Yeah,
But
They're probably a bit more
yeah,
organized in the hatchery itself. Like they probably have like the actual things, and when you buy them, then they can pull directly from. But when people buy
yeah,
them from like when they buy them in bulk for like their stores, I feel like sometimes it just gets mixed up. Like one time,
yes.
the weirdest situation I've ever had was we raised the Cornish cross meat birds, right?
Yep.
So we bought a batch of those. And as I'm looking at, because I like to check over all my chicks, whatever. So as I was checking all the chicks, I look at the one and I'm like, this bird does not look like this bird. This bird has a black beak, whereas the rest are all yellow beak. I got a silky out of a batch of meat birds.
Oh my gosh.
And that chicken, she just passed last year. It was really sad.
Okay.
I want to get another one. She lived for probably 6 or 7 years, so she definitely lived a decent sized life. Good life. Her name was Little Einstein, and she was my puffy headed Silky. She's the funniest thing. But I think I want to get another one this year. But that was like the most absurd chicken switch up I've had. I still feel like when I
mhm,
I
buy with the labels at the stores, I don't get the correct birds that I want. Like
yes.
one time I bought
right.
a Easter egger. It was supposed to be, and I got this chicken with a toupee, and she's very skinny and she lays brown eggs, and I don't know what she is, but
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like they're not what they say they are in the store. It just
Yeah,
always ends up being something
I get
else.
Americanas are like that.
mhm.
Yeah.
I get really good with mine. I don't know if other Tractor Supplies do this or it's mainly mine, but I like they will ask me which bird. Well, most of the people in there will ask me which if I have like specific ones that I want, like if I've been eyeing them for a little bit, and they'll pull
Yeah.
specific ones. But then some people are like, "You want this breed? Okay, scoop however many that you want in there," and I'm like, "Okay, but whatever." I mean, I'm not specific, but like sometimes, especially with Easter eggers, I'll go in there and I have a white Easter egger now that I got from over there, and she like I saw her when she was little. I was like, you're gonna be white. I just know it. And that's what I really wanted in an Easter egger, these big muffs on her and everything.
Yes.
And sure enough, she's a problem child, but she's my problem child. So
Um, so you said you had a couple other animals. Do you want to just say what those animals were again?
Sure. So I will do the Cornish cross in the summertime, raise those as meat birds. We have cows and they are the Black Angus, Red Angus cows.
Mhm.
We will usually breed them and keep one or two of the steers for us and then sell the rest of the calves. And we do that every year. I do have a horse, and then I have turkeys, and I started off with the meat bird turkeys, and they would get so huge, and it came to a point where it was really expensive to buy them, but you can't those bronze breasted or even the white breasted, you can't breed those. You can't keep those
Mhm.
from year to year. So I got a couple of the heritage breed, and so then I keep a pair of those and I can breed those from year to year.
Yeah.
So, and that's been a fun thing, is to go into the turkeys too, because they have a totally another
Yeah.
personality from the chickens.
When
Yeah.
I do meat turkeys, and 2 years ago now, we raised a group of, I think it was four, and be just trying to get into it, just seeing what it was about and everything.
Yeah.
Those were the sweetest four turkeys I've ever had. And this year we did more because I had more people who were like, okay, so you raise turkeys, can you raise us a few? And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
those things are monsters. They were, my sister was terrified to even help me with them. Like they would just peck her fingers and pull them. And I was like, y'all need to
Oh,
chill. I mean, they're really sweet, but they're still a lot different than that. And I think mainly it's because raising them in a greater number than four where
that
I was
could be.
more.
Yeah.
But I want to do, when I get more land, I want to do either blue slate turkeys or the bourbon red. Those are
Okay.
the two breeds that I really want to do.
Bourbon red would be fun. Yeah.
I'm a
Um,
redhead, so I like anything with the red coloring. We got to stick together.
Yes. Yes.
so do you garden at all? I know that you talked about some
Yep.
crops and stuff that you guys do, but do you like do any
Yes.
gardening or anything?
Yes. So it started off with, a small garden of, tomatoes and green beans. And especially after the pandemic, especially after COVID, um, I really expanded that garden. And when I first started canning, maybe like 15 years ago, it was the basics. It was like jam and pickles. And my kids really liked pickles. And then a couple years ago, it went from that to salsa and tomatoes. And then I had a couple ladies at church that kind of helped me a little bit with pressure canning, and specifically pressure canning beef and chicken, which has just been absolutely phenomenal.
Right.
So now it's green beans and carrots and potatoes. And it's mostly canning them, pressure canning them, but everything from fruit to pickles and everything else. So it's been a really fun learning experience and teaching my kids how to do some of that stuff too.
Right.
That's awesome.
So, out of all the things that you've grown, I know this is a question we like to talk about. Do you have anything specifically that you like to grow, like as a favorite of yours?
Um, a favorite of mine, which is a favorite of no one else's, is I love cauliflower. And my husband's like,
Interesting.
no, no cauliflower. They're the
Mm-hmm.
potatoes and sweet corn type of people.
Yeah.
Um, but I like cauliflower. And last year I even did a little bit of lima beans just for something different. Different varieties of tomatoes, the purple tomatoes, and my kids are like, nope, we just want the plain, boring red tomatoes. And I was like, oh, but what about purple cauliflower, But
Yeah. That's how last year I expanded into purple tomatoes and some yellow varieties. And
yeah.
my mom tried a few of them and she was like, these are a little bit different. I like them, but let's stick with the red ones. So this year, naturally, I have the purple, the red, the black cherry, an Italian ice variety, which is a white
Ooh,
He's
variety,
a huge
and
fan
a
of
few other things.
tomatoes. He is a huge fan of tomatoes. It's a running thing here. we always like to ask, like, what is your stance on tomatoes? Because there's this argument.
Yes.
One of us loves tomatoes, one of us hates them. I'm not going to name names, but
And my husband is not a tomato person either,
it's
but
the
he likes
texture
the
thing.
salsa and
I
he
don't
likes
like
the
them
pasta
raw.
sauce, pizza sauce. Yeah, he will not eat
Exactly.
them raw.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love eating them raw. Just go out there, grab a big
Yep.
slicer, just munch on it, and just
Yes.
that's breakfast for me if I'm out there doing garden stuff. It's dinner for me
Yes.
if we have a bunch of tomatoes. It's so good.
No,
In the
yeah.
summertime, I'll be out in the garden and you pick a few things and you come in the house and they're like, "Oh, what's for supper?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I was out in the garden. I ate. I'm good."
Right, exactly.
Like, we're not
And
having dinner. We're not even
No.
eating. Like, go out to the
Yeah,
garden.
you
You can
guys
get
are on your
forage.
own.
I feel like this is more of a like generational thing with me. My mom used to go out to her grandpa's. I think he grew like an acre of tomatoes for all
Okay.
kinds of uses, and she would go out there with the salt shaker and just eat tomatoes all day long.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
kind of did that with my grandpa, where I would go out into his garden and he would leave I've told this story before, but he would leave every single morning and he'd be like, I'm gonna have me a tomato sandwich when I get home. Every time when he get home, there'd be no tomatoes. And he'd be like, oh, the deer are eating them. I would go out there right after he left, make sure he wasn't coming back, and eat every single tomato.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I didn't tell him until later, and I told him, and he was like, I stopped growing tomatoes because I thought the deer were eating them. It wasn't the deer, Grandpa. It wasn't the deer.
It's just
That's
Zach.
funny.
It's just Zach. Zach's out there nibbling on tomatoes all the time. Yeah, I mean, tomatoes for me, it's got to be a texture thing because honestly,
Oh.
it's like it's not like it bothers. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's more of it's a texture thing. The taste, I've been able to swallow it, but it's like whenever I bite down and she's just shoot back into my throat and attack me, I'm like, okay, I don't like foods that attack me, first of all. That's
Oh.
just that's just rude. But
I have a daughter like that
yeah,
she does not like the texture of them.
I don't know. It's like I will eat tomatoes any other way. It's a lot like that with me with other vegetables too. Like I'm not a huge fan of certain things raw, but I'll eat them.
Oh.
Like broccoli, not my favorite raw, but I'll eat it like
Yep.
steamed, like that's great, or like roasted. Cauliflower, not my favorite raw, but if you pickle that, oh, it's delightful. Pickled cauliflower, or you
haven't
can
tried it
ferment
pickled.
it, or you can ferment it. It's delightful. It's so good.
Okay.
It's very good. That's how my mom gets me to eat my vegetables. She just pickles everything.
And I think we grew up, even my husband would say the same thing. Everything was boiled. Asparagus, boiled in water. Your vegetables, boiled in water. But adding butter to them does nothing when they're boiled. We never, ever boil vegetables anymore. It's always grilled, pan fried,
Right.
in something. You got to add some more seasoning
Right.
and flavor to it by grilling them. And
You gotta make it good. Grilled zucchini
Yes.
is amazing. It's like the best
Yes.
thing ever. I love grilled
Yes.
zucchini so much. I love it. It's very good. Like I'm not a big fan of like peppers raw either, or like onions. Like I don't like to eat like
Okay.
onions like that either. But like I'll
You
eat them
saute 'em?
stuff. In stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I don't know.
Yes.
Not a huge fan of things raw, but like any other way, it's a delight. Because it just
Yes.
adds to it. It adds to other things, and it's like, but by itself, I don't know. There's a difference between like cucumbers from my garden and the store. I like raw
Difference.
cucumbers from my garden, not from the
Yes.
store. It's so
Yep.
gross.
Now, if you'd ask my kids, do they like broccoli or cauliflower or lima beans or Brussels sprouts? I grew Brussels sprouts last year and they're all like, what? But you add it in with the other vegetables
Yes.
and grill them
Right.
up. They're like, oh, that's not so bad.
Brussels sprouts are delicious. How did you do your Brussels
Yes.
sprouts? Because I always, every time I grow like stuff like that, the bugs, the little worms or whatever, they just eat my Brussels sprouts.
Oh, I only grew them once. This last summer was the first time I grew them. And so I just add them to the mixed veggies.
Like
So I
like
don't know if it's like the powder. Like I will powder them for bugs.
yeah.
Um,
That's because my
okay.
grandfather grew he grew, what are they called? Zach, what are they called? They're
Cabbages.
Oh,
no,
yep,
no.
cabbage.
Cabbage. Okay, the bugs get the cabbages and they get the Brussels sprouts and they get my broccoli. But what are they called, Zach? What are the
Okay.
bugs called? What are the bugs called?
Oh,
Starts
I'm
with an
not sure.
L.
um,
It's like a,
they're the little yellow bugs.
They're like worms. Hold on. I'll find it.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like cabbage.
Like a hornworm for the tomatoes.
It's a worm of something. Hold on. It's a
I
cabbage.
will see.
The looper, a cabbage looper. That's what it's called. Okay, so it's like a
Okay.
moth. The
Yep.
moth lays the eggs, and then the bugs then they devour it. I have no luck with those things. My grandfather, he
Okay.
took he went to Walmart and he bought wedding gown material, like the stuff, the very
Oh,
thin
yep.
veil stuff,
Gauze.
like yeah.
Yeah.
And he just
Yeah.
like threw it over it and he would like pick stuff off, but it kept the moths out and he was able to
Yep.
get like the one of the best harvests that he's had as far as I know. So I'm gonna attempt that
Okay.
this year. But I didn't know if you had experience with like bugs like that or not.
No, no, I will see little holes in a lot of like the cabbage and that type of stuff.
Hmm.
And so I will do that seven dust.
Hmm.
And that
Mhm.
usually is pretty good. You gotta put it on again after it rains, but
Sure.
um yeah.
I
Otherwise I
have a
really
question.
try not to do too much chemical.
Agreed.
Yeah,
But sometimes you just gotta do a little bit of something. So
Right.
right.
Agreed.
That's how we garden all or both of us garden organically.
yeah.
For the most part, I think I don't know. Neither one of us will really try anything. My great grandfather, who I grow a majority of his garden too, he will we tell him not to because my great grandmother has cancer and we're not gonna test limits of anything because this is the life that we're
Yeah.
getting. And when we told him that, he stopped entirely. Like my mom, to put it lightly, she kind of threatened him. She was like, "You're
Oh,
not, or she's not eating anything out of this garden." And he said,
yeah.
"Okay." And he stopped doing everything. But his harvests have been phenomenal. But I do have a question with cabbage. I started my
Okay.
cabbage February 3rd, and they came up like 3 days later, which I thought was really weird. And they kind of look a little leggy now. Like they're probably 4 or 5 inches long and they're
Okay.
kind of spindly in my opinion, but the stems are really strong. So I've never grown cabbage before. Have your cabbage been like that?
I don't start them from seed. There's certain things that I will buy from seed and I've never
Mhm.
started a cabbage from seed before. Um, when I do grow cabbage, it's strictly for the chickens. I will be
Okay,
totally honest. I do that and
I
I feed it
respect
just to
that.
the chickens.
I respect
Yeah.
that.
that's fine. I'm growing a
Um,
bunch of it, and I figured that's what some of it's going to be used for because I planted it. I go seed crazy every time that I plant
okay.
seeds.
Yep.
So some will most definitely go to the chickens, but I know some of
Yeah.
them will be dispersed elsewhere.
Yeah. So it is February and I will start seeds here pretty soon. I do have some onions started and I need to start some tomatoes and peppers here pretty soon.
Mhm.
Um, I do have a grow light and a heat mat, but yeah, they can get leggy sometimes. And so then you just got to do something with the light so that they don't do that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So you're starting your seeds, you said how soon?
um, you know, I should start them here this month. Probably in another week, I should start those. So, our frost date is the beginning of May.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but that's not always a guarantee. I may not
Right.
get into the garden maybe till the middle of May.
Mhm.
So, it all kind
I
of
started
depends.
Yeah, I started a bunch of my tomatoes today. I started like 50% of what I'm going to grow
Okay.
this year today. And then my last frost date's April 15th. So about 8 weeks from today.
Okay.
And
Yep.
hopefully my grandpa, he has a bunch of gardening friends and they were like in the area. And he was like, April 15th is what they've always told me. Pretty much after that point for me, there's no more there's not going to be another frost after that, and if it is, then it's really rare. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's Central Virginia for you. But we could get
Okay.
anywhere. Like we can
Yes.
frost. We have had days in the 80s, and the next day snow on the ground. It's like what's
Yes.
happening?
Yeah.
So I think we're coming down to the last couple minutes here of our episode.
Yeah. I do
Um,
have to get going. So,
So I have a final question that we like to ask everybody,
okay.
and then we'll end
Okay.
this. But what would you say is your favorite thing about this lifestyle?
I love that you're always learning. You know, your garden is different from year to year. It's the weather, it's different animals that I can teach my kids. That there's always something new to learn, and there's always something new to do. And there's always people that you can meet and introduce different things to, or learn something from somebody that you meet. So
Exactly.
of everything, really, it's learning.
Mhm.
And it's
And
never boring.
yeah,
It's
It's
always
never
exactly.
different.
boring.
It's an adventure. Farming is an
No,
adventure.
it's never boring. Yeah,
So
If it was
guys,
boring, something's wrong. That's
exactly.
all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
so guys, we hope like she just said, you know, it's all learning, and we hope that this taught you something. If you have any questions for us, leave them in the comments below. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yes, thank you so much.
we'll have all of her information linked in the description if you want to go check her out, learn something new. I mean, I think you're on Instagram, correct?
Yes.
So she'll
Yep.
be
I
all the
do a
links.
little bit on YouTube, but not a whole lot.
We'll have the links down there for you guys for everything. You guys should go check her out. But we hope this video taught you something, and thank you again for joining us. We really enjoyed our time.
Thank you
Yes,
for
thank
having
you.
me.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.